welcome to the fourth chapter of our channel, TriFacta Exchange. TriFacta Exchange is a talk show hosted by Natalie Aldajani,
Chris Cal,
and Malik Muhammad.
We three individuals openly discuss our many perspectives based on our own facts of life.
This show highlights the exchange of our valuable information with the hopes to inspire like-minded people to grow together with us and to make this world a better place to live in.
Today on TriFacta Exchange Chapter 4, we are introducing to you Natalie's guest, Kentara Gaines.
Yes, our third guest is Natalie's soul buddy, a friend that truly feels like one of your soulmates, and which I hope we can dig into a little bit today. Kentara will be sharing with us some insights on working with your inner child and how vital it can be in improving your day-to-day communication with others.
Kentara is a shero. She hails from San Francisco, California, where she manages 300 families on a day-to-day basis in her role as an agent for the housing division of San Francisco. She is used to major responsibilities, all while maintaining a healthy lifestyle, relationships, and making major moves towards personal goals. Kentara is the second oldest one of 6 sisters. She's also a mother to a 14-year-old who's over 6 feet tall now. Kentara is beautiful, insightful, and a problem solver. She has recently been educating herself on stocks and the benefit of knowing what you are doing in the financial markets. So I was going to kick this off with a little bit of conversation. If you could just introduce yourself, Miss Kentara.
Hello, everyone. As they said, I'm Kentara. I have a 15-year-old. I just wanted to make a little correction about that.
Oh my God, yeah, he's 15 now. Sorry.
And he's in high school. Super proud of him and what he has going on. And that's all for introductions. I'm going to save everything for the questions.
Natalie, how did you know Kentara?
We went to, we did a college class together, sophomore year or junior year. And
yeah, you had came over.
Yeah, I fell in love with her attitude like during class because she was the only one that was like speaking up the way that I was. Like we were the only ones that had any opinions in our little, what was it? It was like what the heck was that?
I remember, it was like 15 years ago. I kid that was.
I remember you. I thought you thought of it. It was like a writing class. It was literally.
It was.
Yeah, it was something specific about writing. It was like breaking down different texts.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's surprising to me though, because energies attract energies, and especially with Natalie, if she is attracted to your energy in any way, she's gonna let you know. So like,
I kidnap you.
I admired her for like a full week beforehand. I was like, she's cool. I want to know her. And then she was like, hey, like after class.
And did I like bring you to my house like that first day we met?
We were comfortable with each other right away. That's what I mean by soul buddy. It's just like somebody that you're like picking up where you left off, but you just met, you know, like not. Let me get this very clear though, not the toxic personality that like literally moves into your house like when you meet them day one. Like this is a different energy. This is like supportive no matter what. Yes, like just somebody that actually shares a lot of similar values and like just gets you mentally, knows where your heart's coming from, and just like kind of has your back at all times. It's
absolutely
hard enough.
That's wonderful.
You know, so it's nice to have comrades that just genuinely like if shit's gonna go down, you know who to call. You know, like she could call me, I'm gonna call her. You know.
Right.
So once again, thank you so much, Kentara, for being willing to join us and tuning in and being willing to share of yourself with our audience. We are excited to kind of just get to know you a little bit better. Natalie has been talking about you nonstop since we've kind of met. So we're really excited to really dig into who you are and what you bring to the world. So our first question for today is, what do you believe the world needs to be a better place? Tell us, what do we need to be a better place?
And thank you guys for having me. I didn't say that in the beginning. I was thinking about it, but it slipped my mind. Thank you guys for having me, giving me a platform to talk about some of my passions and values. I think just to be really simple, what we need to make the world a better place is people who are doing things that they love more rather than doing things for money. I think it's really like a part of our culture, maybe like American culture or even subcultures that exist here in America. It's like a get out, get a job, make money. And we don't put a lot of emphasis on things that, what do we really love? Where do our passions reside? What are we really good at? And I think if we kind of get back to that, the world would be a better place because people would be operating out of genuineness, authenticity. They won't be doing things just for a dollar. And I think we have a lot of good people in a lot of good roles, but if you ask people like, do they really like their job or are they really passionate about this? They'll say no, right? And I really, really respect you guys and I really value Natalie's like way of life and stuff because she's really shifted, in my opinion, to just focusing on things that she really loves and things that make her a better person, right? And I think the more that we see, the better off it is. And I'm not saying it's always people just working for dollars or working for money, because sometimes you go to the grocery store and you meet that person and they're really, really excited to be behind the counter. They're really excited to be the cashier. And you ask them like, how long have you been working here? And they'll say like 30 years. I love what I do, right? And that's the energy that I really, really enjoy being around. And those are the people that I have the most fun with. People who are really, really doing what they love.
I do it for love.
Love that. Thank you so much. I think you bring up such a great point because when we think about, especially our society today, we are so rooted in capitalism, right? And how people are just making money, right? Even when you meet someone for the first time, one of the first questions that you ask is, what do you do for work? And it's so frustrating that has become the main way in which, one, we connect with each other, but how we're living our day-to-day lives, when inadvertently we should just be trying to find what brings us joy, what brings us happiness. Where does that love come from? And it doesn't have to be just with work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Very well said. I think it would be a very much more accomplished way of approaching things if we did education reform and had things go just from the beginning and have people do what they're great at. Like we talked about this on the last episode, how if people were more into things that they are doing on a day-to-day basis, they wouldn't be so miserable and there wouldn't be so much negativity everywhere. So I totally agree with that.
What did you say you majored in, and how does that like relate to what you just said?
Oh yeah.
I majored in social work. And I guess like the initial motivation for getting a master's degree in social work was money, because they were like, oh, you're not going to make money with there's no real degree in social work at a bachelor's level. My school created this curriculum to try to market people who were into the work, and San Francisco City and County created a position that allowed for you to come in with a bachelor's in social work. But if you look outside of like the Bay Area or California, schools don't really offer that. So you kind of stuck. Like unless you want to get a city job for San Francisco, that's the only thing I would really be able to do. Or else I'd just be making like regular pay case manager money that people can get without even having a degree. So I got into a social work program at a graduate degree level. And like I said, initially it was money, but I've always known that I wanted to help people, right? And when I was about 17, I was writing out a scholarship application. I was applying for a scholarship, and of course they ask you, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What are you passionate about? And I was like helping people, and I was asking my teacher, like, what kind of degree do people get if they want to help people? And he was like, social work degree. And I was like, the people who take kids from their families, are we in on the same page? And he was like, no, that's just one part of social work, right? So he opened my eyes to seeing that social work could be many different things, right? And of course, as I got more immersed into the career path, I learned that you could work in a school level, you could work at a hospital, you could work in community organizing, you could be a nonprofit director. I've worked in prisons before with that degree. I'm slated to be a therapist. So I'm working on my license to be a therapist. So that's like private practice, individual work. Not like social worky at all, but also very much social work, right? So yeah, I really, I was like the little kid who would sit and listen to people's problems. Maybe some adults were a little unboundary, but grown-ups would tell me their problems like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. So I've always just been really, I used to say nosy, but really, really into people's lives and like what's going on behind the scenes, right? So I'm really happy that I'm at a level now where I don't just have to take odd jobs and I don't have to just try to get any type of work. I'm actually doing what I really, really love.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I'm able to like manage my caseload of 300 families is because literally all my families, I really do love them. And it's over, I've been there for 3 years. So
Yeah.
I've built rapport with them and I've gotten to know them. But even when I first started and I didn't know anybody, I was really passionate about the work.
Were there any like defining moments in your career that really touched you or has like taught you something that you didn't realize you needed to be taught? Because I think that's a very honorable career that you're doing.
I think I've always had a lot of like fun jobs. Even when I worked at juvenile hall with like kids getting out of juvie, it was super fun, right? We're working with kids, we're taking them on field trips. But when I went to work for I was working for Santa Rosa County Jail. So people were incarcerated. A lot of them were at the lowest points of their lives. I really got to see how trauma like could manifest in people's lives if it was uncared for or just unresolved, right? If people just tried to move through life without working through things, it would manifest later.
Yeah.
I would say at that point I realized like this work is really needed, especially in my community, and people who I identify with really need people that they identify with, right, to be able to help them work through some of that. Because a lot of it is there's a lot of barriers to healing because of systematic things, and I think people, once they see people that they can identify with trying to help them, they're more likely to accept the help. And I noticed that was true when I went into the jails. People they didn't even trust me, but over time they began to open up, and I really felt like my work was like necessary. Like I felt like obligated to do the work after that experience.
Okay, that was wonderful. So like, let me get you with one of my last questions. Just like that was really good to hear. This job entails a lot of tragedy and sadness. So like, what drives you to be happy, and how do you keep yourself in a positive mindset so you can like change other people's lives?
Yes. So I mean, I think I talk about self-care a lot. And for those who are not as familiar with the term, basically like checking in with yourself all the time, as much as you need, but making it a point to do it on a frequent basis, whether it's like every Friday, I'm going to just do some self-check-in, or if it's every morning when I wake up, I'm going to do a body scan and see how I'm feeling and what I need. But making like yourself a priority in this work is really, really important. It's easy to get caught up in other people's trauma and other people's lives. And if you're familiar with the work, you know about like vicarious trauma, right? It's just like hearing other people's trauma and then you taking that on, and now your back's hurting. Someone told you they got up and now you're feeling pain. Like truly this happens. Or you're sad and you don't know why you're crying, and just not, and having boundaries. So I like to separate work and personal life. So just completely different environments, right? When I'm home, I'm home. When I'm at work, I'm at work. COVID has shifted that a lot, but outside of COVID, boundaries, checking in with myself and seeing what my values are and how they might be evolving. I think when our values evolve and we don't know they're evolving, we're frustrated. Because we're constantly in environments that are not aligned with us, and we're like, oh no, like why? What? You're kind of battling with yourself all the time, and it's because you're not clear on your values.
Yeah.
So just making sure I'm in touch with like what's important to me and trying to be in alignment with that, down to like relationship values, family values, cultural values. Just making sure that I'm always aware of what they are. So if something comes along and it's not in alignment, I can kind of check that and say, hey, like this isn't in alignment with me. I need to make some adjustments, or I need to change environments or change friends, right? Or whatever. But just being aware of it.
Right. Yeah, like I think happiness is like a state of mind, and the fact that you have to be self-aware of how you project yourself really affects your work, your life, your family. And so being like aware and prioritize the things that make you happy and less stress is a really good perspective.
Yeah.
Maintaining that work-life balance is so important, right? Not only in the social work field, but in all aspects of work, right? Really trying to find those ways of how you navigate your work and your home life. And I also loved how you talked about values, right? And finding that essence of what is it that you value, and are your actions and what you're doing really meeting and being congruent with those values? Because a lot of times they're not in alignment, as you said. So how can we continue to check in on ourselves, and loving that notion of self-care? You know, as someone that comes from the counseling field, there's so much overlap, right?
Yes.
And I think the beauty of social work is that so much of it is about the holistic wellness of the folks that you're working with, right?
Yeah.
Many different aspects of their lives that they may be navigating, and how you can support. So thank you for the work that you consistently are doing. Thank you for being willing to share. I think our audience is definitely taking some good tidbits away from just you being able to share with us.
Thank you.
So, Kentara, for your third question, what types of retreats do you plan to coordinate? Because you and I were talking about how you wanted to do some wellness retreats, and how can people, like the viewers for our channel, find out more about signing up for your next one?
So, to answer the last question first, my email address, kentaragames@gmail.com, is my primary communication with folks around this type of work. People may get kind of intimidated when we talk about healing, but I offer like all types of healing, whether it could be individual healing, and then I like to do group healing, and it's not limited to any group of folks. It could be like you and coworkers that have a weird dynamic that you want to kind of get to the bottom of. It could be family dynamics that you kind of want to like get out there. And I know how to be delicate, so you don't, if it's like, you know, something kind of serious, we won't just clam right on the person or just jump right into it, but we would like build into it, like a healthy way of addressing whatever the issue might be. And then I also like this one is like best friend healing groups, because I feel like with our best friends, especially like childhood best friends, and I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about like childhood stuff, but a lot of our egotistical, negative, toxic behaviors are manifested in childhood because of things that are happening within the environment, you know, that we're in. And we kind of hold on to some of those traits, right? We grow up and we become mature and we get degrees and we get jobs, but we're still that little brat sometimes, right? We're still that little kid that thinks everybody's like, that's jealous, or like wants mommy, right? You might have some sibling dynamics and you're like, you know, it's still there if you don't really address it. So I definitely have a lot of fun with the best friend kind of healing circles or healing retreats. My goal is to do to intertwine excursions and like destination things, like so we could go places, we could travel, do some international stuff. People like to go places. Sometimes people feel more comfortable addressing things or healing when they're not in their comfort zone. So I would really be interested in like cruises and 7-day like resort type of things, where each day we have a different kind of goal of the day, right? And we're unpacking and we're not just doing everything in an hour, right? Because people think of therapy, they think of like a 50-minute session with somebody they don't know. This would be like a real opportunity to uncover a lot of kind of childhood issues. So those are some of the types of retreats that I want to do. I'm still kind of working it through, but I definitely have been successful at doing a couple, and folks have walked away feeling lighter, feeling like they Like, because after you address something, especially if it's a communication style with friends, and you're like, hey, like, I really don't like when you talk to me this way, or I really don't like when you use these types of words. When it's been addressed in a way that's kind of formal in front of other people, you can't really do it anymore. So people have told me, like, weeks and months later, like, hey, we're not having that issue, but other stuff have come up, but we're not having that issue with her talking to me like that, or she's not hanging up in my face anymore when she's getting upset, or, you know, my boyfriend's more open to me doing this and this now because we talked about how that's affecting me. So I've gotten some takeaway, I gotten some feedback, and I've been able to take away some different things that are helping me build better, not curriculums, but better frameworks to work on.
Yeah, points of interest.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned doing retreats with just individuals and having them work on the relationship with themselves, and you know, doing their inner child work. So
absolutely,
when Kentara is speaking about doing inner child work, it's not only like your communication with yourself, it's also communication with everybody in your life. It's how you present yourself to the world based on things that you are or aren't facing from, you know, your past.
Yeah, I think about a trendy kind of thing right now, especially for folks in the counseling world, the healing world, the therapy world, is mindfulness, right? So they talk a lot about being mindful, right? And the ability to be present, and the ability to be able to tune out distractions and just focus on right now, and how important that is for other types of healing. And it's really impossible to be present right here, right now, if you have all these distractions about like things that you've gone through and things you've been through and resentments that you're holding on to. And it's really hard to get into that state. And I remember when I would like meditate and do yoga and do grounding exercises, it was really frustrating for me. Like, I felt like I couldn't ever get grounded. I couldn't get into a state of mindfulness until I really started to do some childhood work, right? And there's a lot of different practices and a lot of different things you can do to start that journey. But just being mindful of it, and not everybody has childhood traumas, right? I do want to say that. I don't want to make it seem like everybody has to do this work, because some people had wonderful childhoods and they had caring parents and loving caregivers that did not perpetuate them manifesting these things. So this is not for those folks. But for the folks who are aware of different like toxic communication styles that they may have been exposed to, or just parents that may have had some different forms of abuse, right? Maybe not extreme abuse, but just different things that may not have been healthy. If you know that you've gone through that as a child or as an individual, it would be like in your best interest to just start thinking about how that has played a part in your current relationships, with intimate work relationships. Like, are you always fighting with people at work? Are you always getting into it with your lovers or your intimate partners? Are you always having these roadblocks to communication? It would be really, really good to just sit and think about, hey, what kind of childhood did you have? What type of parents did you have? Did you get the love, support, guidance that you needed? And if you didn't, like, that's fine, right? But how can you give that to yourself now, right? How can you go back and say, hey, I didn't get this as a child, but I can do this for myself right now. And believe it or not, that starts to turn a wheel, right? You start to be really aware of how you may be contributing to negative dynamics in your relationship. And again, it's not always on you. Sometimes it can be other people, but choosing toxic people is also a dynamic of having an unhealthy childhood, because we're familiar with unhealthiness, right? We know about that. That's comforting, even if it's unhealthy. So it took me a while to do that. I never had issues with like work relationships or like school relationships. I could always meet good people at school. I had good friends, but within like intimate relationships, I saw this come up a lot. So I was able to take a step back and say, hey, what's happening here? And until I did that, it just continued to be a cycle. So, yeah.
So powerful. You know, Kentara, you made so many great points that I want to draw out real quick. One is that not everybody is going to have to experience some type of traumatic childhood, right?
Yeah.
But there are linkages to how those formative years, those years where one, so much of what was happening in our lives were out of our control, are
Mm-hmm.
shaping so much of who we are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to do that work so we can recognize where those patterns may have started, where they may continue to perpetuate throughout your current life, right? Because it's so often we get so caught up in the go 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 go, the hustle
Mm-hmm.
bustle of every day, we don't do that self-reflective work, right? We don't ask ourselves those questions. We don't start to pay attention to the patterns that we're getting ourselves into. And as you said, a lot of that can link back to childhood, right? And those times during those formative years. So important for us to do that work, because even as adults, we are always our inner child, right? There is always that core of who we are, because we are nothing more than a collection of experiences
Mm-hmm.
that got us to where we are today. So
Mhm.
I'm so happy to know that you can provide some of that work for folks at times. So I'm telling all of our audience right now, reach out, right? Don't hesitate to reach out if you're looking to do some of that work. Clearly, Kentara would be a great resource to tap.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you, Bestie. You are amazing. And I just had to share you with the boys and also the audience, because
Mhm.
I know that not only does she do these retreats, but I feel like she is going to help mindsets and relationships all over the country and eventually world. So well, one state at a time. We'll
Yeah.
take it.
Starting with this one.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your time. If there's anything else that you want to share about like what you're doing, or if there's like ways that you want people to reach out or anything, like maybe if you have any socials that you want to share, I can put them in our description and pop up.
Yes. My Instagram right now is like not, it's like blank because I'm trying to like, I'm in hibernation right now and kind of just focusing on just where I'm at with things. I feel like that could be a distraction sometimes too, but I will use it as a platform to market and to get the word out. And I am on there, so I'm connected. And it's just Kentara _ three underscores. So it's like a long line. And then the email address, KentaraGamesMSW@gmail.com. I check it every 2 hours, every 30 minutes, because it's my primary
Mhm.
communication right now. And yeah, as long as people are connected to you, they can get connected to me.
Thank you so much, boys.
It was really nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet you.
Kentara,
You guys
again,
have bomb energy.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I know.
hopefully we can see you again soon.
Yes, this was exciting. This was super fun.
Yeah, we'll have to have a little like social gathering and just get together. By the way, Kentara is Pisces, for those of you out there. I know you were all wondering. And I know you did your personality test. Do you remember your results? Or I
I
think
don't right now.
I know.
I'm drawing blank
I
because
know.
it was like 50 different types, right?
Mhm.
No, like 16.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember.
I know.
But were we
It
the
was
same?
really interesting. No,
I think
I feel like no.
I feel like we
We're
were.
one that complimented us. That's why I thought it was cool and different.
I know we've been having so many conversations with folks who actually end up being pretty much the same as us. But it's again, I think it's because of the energies that we're all bringing forward and how we are connecting. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were like a letter off or so. But also you're a Pisces, so that's always fun. We've been talking a lot about like our astrological signs, our path numbers, those types of things. Have just been intriguing to think about, not necessarily using them as like the end all be all, but they can be a bit of a guide, as you were saying, to help folks start to contextualize and pick up on those different types of patterns, think about these things in a new way, right? Especially for people that aren't in like the healing or counseling and social work world. It gives folks that way of like, this is how I can talk about my personality. This is how I can connect with other people. But I always encourage our folks, do not use that as the only way that you think about your own sense of who you are.
don't let it define you exclusively. Yeah, I agree with that. And Malik also points out that, you know, not everything about horoscopes are things that we want to admit to, like personality wise. And we're like, no, I'm not like that. Like, you can't say that I'm exactly like that. But with the personality test, he did mention you are putting in your own input. So if you let those two different variables come together, you can kind of, it's like a little cheat sheet for life, you know, like you know a little bit about yourself. You go to a retreat with Kentara, you find out even more about yourself, and life gets a little bit easier, you know?
Right.
I cannot find your results for the life of me, so we're going to share that with the viewers on the next episode.
Right.
Like, I think she's an ENFJ too, guys. We're just going to say that. All right, thank you as always, and hopefully we will see you guys next chapter.
Well, thank you guys. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
I love you.
Love
Bye,
you.
audience.
Bye.